All right, you have a rebuttal closing, Mr. Biniani?
Briefly, Your Honor. I get to go last. I'm going to be quick, I promise. Throughout the trial, every time somebody says something, that I am sitting there and I just want to jump out of my chair and scream and say, that's not right. That's not how it happened. I write note cards. I go at home, I write note cards, and I keep track of them. And I have note cards for every time that somebody said something that I just wanted to jump out of my chair. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to go through some of them, and I'm going to go through them quickly so that you can get back into that deliberation room, okay? All right. Testing day. Remember this? Testing day. Today was testing day. Ladies and gentlemen, if Dr. Parker took as much care for those tests and exercised that care for the safety and security of the children and the teachers at this school, we wouldn't be here today. Express promises to protect. Remember, they put up this thing and said, well, you didn't say anything to her. You didn't. Dr. Parker didn't expressly say to you, I'm going to protect you. And that Abby didn't tell Dr. Parker herself. Well, what happened to this collaborative team approach? What happened to this collaborative team approach that we're talking about? Is it not enough that as a team they talked and said Ms. Kovac is going to go tell her? Which one do you want? Do you want it to be a team, or do you want everything coming from the same person? You can't have it both ways. And they all worked as a team, each and every one of them except for Dr. Parker. And Amy Kovac sends a text message 2 days after the fact. Amy Kovac was on that witness stand, and if you pull it up, go ahead and read the text message. Pull up the text message, Amy Kovac on that witness stand. Did they ask Amy Kovac if, hey, doctor, did you know at that point in time that Dr. Parker was asked to search the boy at 1:40 p.m.? They asked him that? Did you know when you sent that text message that 2 other teachers came and asked her to search the person? Did they ask her that? Didn't want that answer. Did not want that answer. Because one person had all the puzzle pieces, and that person is Dr. Parker. And then you talk about going onto the playground. Going onto the playground. And what about what you did in the classroom? And why didn't you take them off the playground? And why didn't you search the backpack? The only reason they're able to point that finger of doubt at every single person in this school, except for Dr. Parker, is that Dr. Parker sat on her hands. At 12:21 p.m., if Dr. Parker was doing her job, she would have walked into that room, grabbed that book bag, and none of these questions would have ever been asked ever again. And because she didn't, because she sat on her hands, they now get to point the finger at every other person at this school and said, why didn't you pick up the ball that I dropped? Why didn't you pick up the ball that I dropped? And then they talk about what Ms. Zwerner could have done sitting in that classroom. I want you to look at instruction 23 when you get in the back, okay? Instruction 23 says, a plaintiff has the right to assume that a defendant will exercise ordinary care until she realizes, or in the exercise of ordinary care, should realize that the defendant is not going to do so. What does that mean? That means that when Ms. Zwerner talked to Ms. Kovac and they went and told the principal, who they knew it was her job to deal with a gun on campus, she had the right to assume that somebody was actually going to come into her classroom and do something about it. For every minute, she had the right to assume, whether it was in the classroom, on the playground, in the hallway, whatever, they had the right to assume that somebody was going to do their job and take care of her. And then they get up and say, oh, the expert's lying because she mixed up a guidance counselor with a teacher. But it's not just the expert that's lying. They're all lying. They're all lying. Ms. Kovac didn't tell you the truth. Ms. West didn't tell you the truth. Mr. Rawls, I think, sounds like they told you the truth a little bit. Ms. Zwerner didn't tell you the truth. Everyone's lying. Everyone's lying. What does that tell you about common sense? They had days of evidence where you got to go home on Friday. Not a single person called. It was their turn. The only people they called as an expert were the people that they paid to come into this courtroom, and you're telling us that we're the problem for paying people? If anybody supported your position, march them onto that witness stand and tell us all the materials that Dr. Klinger reviewed, all the materials she reviewed, body camera, cops, witnesses. They help you? Put them on the witness stand. You didn't see a single one of them. You didn't see a single one of them. And if you didn't believe every word that was coming out of their mouth, and it's not exactly how it happened in your office, then get on the witness stand and tell us. There was all this conversation in jury voir dire about what it means to plead the Fifth Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody doesn't plead the Fifth Amendment unless they sit on that witness stand and say, I plead the Fifth. In a civil case, you don't have the right to remain silent until you actually exercise your right to remain silent. And not a single chance, they didn't want to take a single chance of her answering a single question. And if they didn't believe them,
Your Honor, I would object at the stage. I'd ask sidebar, please.
No sidebar, overruled. You may
Then I
proceed.
would ask to voice my objection on the record, Your Honor.
You can after closing. Go ahead, Mr. Binion.
and then we talk about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. What I want you to do is if you watch that, if you look at that clip, I want you to read the second sentence. And the second sentence says, I am the first grade teacher that was shot by a 6-year-old. What does that mean to somebody? That your identity, I don't fuck around saying I'm my mother's child. I'm a first grade teacher. And Ms. Zwerner walks around life feeling like she has to tell everybody, this is me because this defines me. When you get into that jury room, the very last instruction is about life expectancy. What it says is that Ms. Zwerner has a life expectancy from today moving forward of 53 years. 53 years. Why is that instruction there for you? The instruction's there for you because when you're deciding what's full and what's fair, you're not just deciding tomorrow and what might happen the next day. You're not gassing up the plane to get to 45 or 55 years old. We don't get to come back here in 5, 10, 15 years and bring you all together and ask Ms. Zwerner, how are you doing? Are you still waking up at night? Do you still see that face? You have to make all of those decisions now. The other day, we took a lawyer break. Remember, the judge talked about lawyer breaks. A longer break than probably normal. And we were back in the room, and she was very nervous. And she was anxious. And we stood across the room from each other. And Miss Toscano said to her, and I looked at her and I said, whatever burdens you have, put them on me. Whatever burden you're carrying, whether it's in your mind, your soul, your body, put it on me and let me carry it. Because that's what we do as lawyers. We accept to take this on through its ups and its downs, through the weight that it puts on our shoulders. And we accept that burden to be somebody's voice. And if I've talked more than I should, I'm sorry. If I haven't said the things that I should have said or how I should have said them, I'm sorry. I've done it the best that I can. The best that I can, and I love what I do. And if I could get in that room with you and scratch and claw and fight for her, do you doubt for a moment that I would? Do you doubt for a moment that she would or he would? I can't get in that room. This is the hardest part because now my burden's off and I pass it to you. And I say, fight for her. Fight for her, please, if you think it's what's right. And return a verdict in her favor that we've asked for. Thank you.
All right, thank you.